Most people spend their lives searching for external validation, seeking to build a perfect image that protects them from the world's judgment. They seek power through titles, approval through conformity, and stability through comfort. But this path inevitably leads to fragmentation, fear, and a life lived as a diminished version of the self. The highest human achievement is not success. It is wholeness. The journey to wholeness is what Carl Jung called individuation, the psychological process by which an individual becomes an undivided being, separate from the mass and fully integrated in their conscious and unconscious lives. This journey is not easy. It demands confrontation, suffering, and the courage to meet the terrifying aspects of your own soul. But once the process begins, once you commit to becoming the unique individual you were born to be, you become something profound. Unstoppable. To be unstoppable is not to be immune to failure. It is to be immune to regret. It is to possess an inner authority so total that external circumstances can no longer define your worth or halt your forward motion. It is the realization that your true power lies not in your external successes, but in your unshakable psychological sovereignty. This video is your map. We will explore the 7 unmistakable signs that the arduous, life-altering process of individuation has been activated in your soul. If you recognize these signs, stop resisting the momentum. You are not just changing your life. You are aligning with the powerful, unstoppable force of the self. Let's look at the 7 signs that prove you are finally stepping onto the path of the true self. Sign 1. You have differentiated yourself from your persona. The first, clearest sign that you are becoming unstoppable is that you have successfully differentiated yourself from your persona. The persona is the social mask, the image you project. To the world, the successful executive, the dedicated father, the reliable friend. In the fragmented life, the persona becomes a tyrant, dictating your choices and preventing you from expressing anything that might threaten your carefully curated image. This dependence makes you weak, because your identity rests on external approval. When individuation begins, you recognize that the persona is merely a functional tool, not your essence. You realize that your value does not change whether you are wearing a suit in a boardroom or old sweats in your garage. This differentiation is a radical act of liberation. The fearlessness of choice. This sign manifests as a profound freedom of choice. You start making decisions based on inner necessity rather than outer expectations. You stop chasing titles you don't care about simply because they validate your social standing. You start pursuing projects that fulfill your soul, even if they confuse your peers or challenge your established reputation. This separation is what makes you unstoppable. The fear of social judgment, the greatest paralyzing force in modern life, loses its power. You no longer need the world's applause to move forward. You have discovered your own psychic sovereignty, recognizing that your approval is the only currency that matters. You are no longer serving your image. You are commanding it. This differentiation is the first, necessary act of self-ownership. Sign 2. You are actively working with your shadow. The second powerful sign of becoming unstoppable is that you are no longer at war with yourself. You are actively recognizing, facing, and integrating your shadow. The shadow is the unconscious reservoir of all the instincts, impulses, and qualities that your conscious ego has deemed unacceptable. Your repressed anger, your true selfishness, your chaotic sexuality, or your raw ambition. In the fragmented life, the shadow is a sabotaging enemy. It retaliates through destructive projections, chronic self-sabotage, and massive emotional reactions. When individuation takes hold, you realize that the shadow is not evil. It is merely unconscious energy. You stop projecting your flaws onto others, everyone at work is so lazy, and start taking ownership. I'm afraid to assert my own power, so I resent those who do. This act of shadow integration is terrifying, but immensely empowering. Accessing primal energy, integrating the shadow, grants you access to an enormous reserve of primal psychological energy previously wasted on repression. The rage you suppressed becomes the fierce passion for your work. The aggression you denied becomes the unshakable drive required to overcome resistance. The chaos you feared becomes the creative vitality necessary for innovation. The unstoppable person is not a saint. They are whole. They have made a conscious, moral relationship with their own darkness, allowing them to wield their full psychological force with consciousness and intent. They are no longer vulnerable to external attack, because they have already faced the absolute worst within themselves and integrated it. Sign 3. You embrace uncomfortable cognitive dissonance, the hakitruji. Third sign that your individuation is accelerating is your capacity to endure and even welcome uncomfortable cognitive dissonance. The ego seeks comfort and consistency. It wants your beliefs, feelings, and actions to align perfectly, creating a neat, ordered psychological structure. This fear of contradiction forces the ordinary person to reject any truth that doesn't fit their existing worldview, making them dogmatic, rigid, and resistant to growth. The unstoppable person, however, understands that growth requires tension. They can hold two conflicting ideas in their mind simultaneously, e.g., I am deeply competent at this job, and I also feel like a total fraud right now, without suffering psychological collapse. They embrace the fact that their inner life is complex, contradictory, and messy. The tension of opposites Jung called this the tension of opposites, and it is the necessary energy source for the movement toward the self. The unstoppable individual thrives in this uncertainty. They realize that their highest potential lies in the conflict between their conscious ideals and their unconscious instincts. They stop seeking a final, easy answer and start appreciating the power of the question itself. This sign manifests as intellectual and emotional flexibility. You can learn from people you disagree with, love people you find frustrating, and pursue goals that terrify you. You are no longer brittle. You have achieved a powerful, resilient identity that can withstand internal paradox and external contradiction, making you impossible to categorize or corner. Sign 4. You are constantly confronted by meaningful coincidence, synchronicity. The fourth, often mystical, sign that you are on the path of the self is a noticeable increase in meaningful coincidence, or synchronicity. Synchronicity is Jung's term for the simultaneous occurrence of two or more causally unrelated events which have the same meaning. It is the feeling that the external world is suddenly responding to your internal state. The phone rings just as you think of the person. A book falls open to the exact page you need, or a random conversation solves a problem you've been wrestling with for weeks. In the fragmented life, these are dismissed as chance. But as you progress through individuation, you become psychologically attuned. Your inner life, the unconscious, is aligning with your outer life, the conscious persona, and this internal harmony causes you to perceive and interact with the world in a way that generates external harmony. The world responds to your wholeness synchronicity, is the unconscious affirming your path. It is the universe providing little, undeniable winks that confirm you are moving in the right direction. It proves that you are no longer fighting against the current of your own destiny. You are moving with the flow of the self. The unstoppable person learns to read these signs. They stop relying solely on linear, conscious planning and start trusting the deeper intelligence that speaks through coincidence. This trust grants them a quiet, powerful confidence. They know they are not alone in their striving. They are being guided by a powerful collective wisdom that operates beyond the limits of their rational mind. Sign 5. You have discovered a reason for suffering. The fifth, most vital sign that you are becoming unstoppable is a profound shift in your relationship with pain. You have discovered a reason for suffering. The ordinary person seeks to avoid pain at all costs, viewing suffering as a defect, an error, or a sign of failure. This avoidance is what keeps them small, brittle, and perpetually dependent on external comfort. The unstoppable person recognizes that suffering is essential for consciousness. As Jung noted, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. Your psychological gold is mined from the conflict, the disappointment, and the crises you endure. When you find your true path, you find a purpose so great that it justifies the difficulty required to achieve it. The willingness to be forged. This sign is characterized by a voluntary embrace of hardship. You realize that the intense anxiety of taking a risk, the agony of disciplined repetition, and the grief of letting go of an old, comfortable identity are all necessary ingredients for the person you are becoming. This is the Jungian version of amor fati, love of fate. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What profound strength is this experience demanding that I forge?" This perspective makes you unstoppable because you are no longer defined by the trauma of the event, but by the meaning you extract from it. Your suffering is transformed from a curse into a magnificent sovereign act of self-creation. Sign 6. Your life becomes less neurotic and more problematic. The 6th, counterintuitive sign that you are on the right path is a shift in the type of conflict you experience. Your life becomes less neurotic and significantly more problematic. The neurotic life is dominated by petty internal conflicts. You spend vast amounts of energy fighting with yourself, repressing the shadow, upholding the persona, and obsessing over minor anxieties and grudges. This internal friction paralyzes you, preventing genuine external action. As individuation progresses, those internal complexes are integrated. The energy previously wasted on self-war is freed up and directed outward. You are no longer fighting with yourself. You are fighting the real problems of life, the difficult external challenges inherent in pursuing a high-stakes, unique path, the greatness of your problems. Your problems become bigger, clearer, and more meaningful. Instead of worrying about what your neighbor thinks, neurotic, you are tackling a project that might fundamentally fail but is necessary for your soul, problematic. Instead of fighting repressed rage, neurotic, you are facing the conscious external resistance required to achieve your goal, problematic. The unstoppable person does not live an easy life. They simply trade low-quality, self-inflicted neurotic pain for high-quality, meaning-generating external problems. They have the courage to face the true difficulties of existence because they are no longer burdened by the immense weight of their own self-deception. Your problems are now worthy of your strength. Sign 7. You recognize the inner authority, the self. The 7th, culminating sign that you are becoming unstoppable is the recognition and deference to your inner authority, the self. In Jungian terms, the self is the blueprint for your wholeness. It is the center of the total psyche, conscious and unconscious, and is often symbolized by mandalas, circles, or the central God image. The self is your inner North Star, the voice that knows the unique, necessary path of your destiny, separate from the demands of your ego. In the fragmented life, the ego is the king, mistakenly believing it is the center of the psyche. It chases external goals and consensus, but as individuation matures, the ego relinquishes its ultimate authority and becomes the servant of the self. The end of external gurus. The recognition of the self means you no longer need external gurus, traditions, or endless self-help systems to tell you what is right. You have found the absolute criterion within yourself. Your decisions are no longer filtered through, "What should I do?" but through, "What does the wholeness of my being demand that I do?" This inner authority makes you fundamentally unstoppable. You are no longer reliant on changeable external forces. You are guided by an eternal, unique, and powerful wisdom that only you possess. You become the creator of your own values and the ultimate arbiter of your own life. You are, finally, the individuated self, the unique whole you were always meant to be. The unstoppable self, we, have navigated the 7 powerful signs that you are on the magnificent and terrifying journey of individuation, separating from your persona, integrating your shadow, embracing cognitive dissonance, experiencing synchronicity, finding a reason for suffering, replacing neurotic pain with meaningful problems, and recognizing the supreme authority of the self. These signs all point to a single truth: your freedom is internal. To be unstoppable is not to achieve a static state of power. It is to activate a dynamic process of continuous self-renewal. The unstoppable person is defined by their unshakable internal loyalty, a loyalty to the difficult, unique, and necessary truth of their own being. They do not fear failure because they know that failure is merely the necessary resistance that allows them to discover a greater, more profound strength. The greatest resistance you will ever face is the resistance to becoming yourself. The world conspires to keep you small, comfortable, and predictable. But the forces of the self are far greater than the forces of conformity. If you recognize these signs, stop trying to turn back. Stop looking for an easier path. You have already started the grand alchemical process of psychological transformation. You are no longer a product of your past. You are the conscious creator of your future. The cage has dissolved. The map is drawn. The only requirement now is the courage to walk the unique, difficult path that only you can define. This is the ultimate achievement of the human spirit. This is the unshakable foundation of the inner citadel. Thank you for joining me on this profound psychological exploration. If you are ready to stop resisting your own potential and become the whole, unstoppable individual you were meant to be, please subscribe to the Inner Citadel and join our community. Until next time, be dangerous, be whole.